How's everyone doing today? Today is April 11th, 2021. It is a Sunday. Happy Sunday to you. If you're new here, my name is Evan. A lot of folks also refer to me as YouTube John Stonkton. And when I get really good at cooking, getting these nice treats up for you, they also call me Chef Boyar Swing. And with that being said, like I always say in every single video 10,000 times, these are my cats. This is Gremlin, this is Crumpet. They're actually behaving themselves today, so that's actually a nice change of pace for the little one especially. If you're new here, how are you? You're going to notice today that I actually have the lighting set up almost beautifully. I think it could be a little bit better in some aspects, but I'm not so red. I actually, all I needed was a professional photographer who has a PhD in photography to come over. I gave him waffles, and he in fact gave me balance on my camera. So I'm glad the $1,000 camera that I spent on this channel is actually paying off. So what's up, y'all? Ooh, what's up? So if you're new here, if you're a beginner, for sure, I'm going to show you all the type of technical analysis I look for. Now, if you want fundamental analysis, that's going to be on Friday and Saturday, especially this last Saturday. I talked about all the type of sectors I want to focus, what kind of news I think is going to be coming out. And this week, I'm looking at energy, especially today. With it being Sunday, with the whole week, I think we have a good chance of bouncing in the energy sector, among others. So I think 7 of the 8 of these are going to be energy-based, and that's going to be a good thing. What I'm going to show you in every single ticker is supports and resistances, trend lines, patterns, the volume profile for sure. I'm also going to show you the RSI, stochastic, and the vortex indicator. All those trend lines, those patterns, those supports, what I'm looking at, how I balance risk versus reward, and how I'd be successful. Then you can take what I do into your own world and apply it to your own tickers and do much better if you were just going in blindly. Intermediate traders, I'm going to show you some different tickers, some different ideas. These kind of non-hype ones that a lot of folks like to focus on. Is not what I like to focus on. They want to focus on GME, NIO, gain all the clicks. I'd rather focus on brand new tickers that no one really knows about and bring them into light. I don't want to spend too much time. I know the average watch time is 30 minutes. I don't want to be over 25 today. I have 8 great tickers to go into. Before I hop into, again, a like, subscribe, and hitting the bell notification helps me feed my kitties. I mean, look at this one. Helps me feed my cats. Also, it helps other folks get this kind of information. If you find this useful, maybe they'll find it useful. I'm sorry. And then, lastly, I do have a Discord channel. The Discord in itself is, a few bucks a month. I don't want to push it. I'm not that kind of guy. If you like this kind of content enough, you want to get really in-depth stuff, you want to have a whole discussion with me and the whole group, let me know. 7-day trial is still open for anybody who wants to try it. As of right now, I'm still very happy with where it is, so if you don't want to, it's totally fine as well. Lastly, a bunch of great folks on YouTube. Check them out as well. I'm not the kind of guy who's very much like, it must be me and that's it. That's unhealthy, and we don't want to do that. I want you to go find other people who you also really enjoy and you want to go talk to. Go find the other great traders, all that kind of stuff. I'm probably one of the best at swing trading 3 to 10 days and finding these kind of sectors that have some good opportunity and exploiting that. But with that being said, 8 tickers, almost all energy. Let's get into it. So we have 8 great tickers up here. As I said, I think that energy may be the best sector. If we're looking at it real quick, we can see that this channel it's creating, this is our mean regression line, this is the median line. Most times we're going to see a lot of these tickers that have trend lines in the middle, like especially the overall sectors. You want to be towards the middle or below it. And seeing as we're so far below it, we think we may have a great opportunity this week with energy. I also think that utilities is hitting its peak. I recall that. Healthcare has some room. And then technology always looks pretty good as well. But, we can see, I think, for sure, energy this week and maybe some basic materials will be the best picks. So, our first one is Arlp. And you're probably thinking, where's the charting? Well, I'm going to do it with you. So, as I always do, first thing first is the supports. I think our most major one's going to be right around this area. And again, I say area because I think zones makes much more sense than lines. But given this kind of information and the charting we have, that's our first one, that's our support area. And again, it could be lower, which is fine. I think 552, also a support. And I also think 531, also a support. This is the most important one. That this breaks, we just slide it down. Our first resistance is obviously going to be around here. I think our first major resistance, without wicking, would be probably right about here. I make my resistance as orange. So there that is, looking nice. And then we have an obvious trend line, and it comes down to what you think it should be. You can come down here, and you can come up and see we had one that broke, and this is not really that good, so I'm going to come back over here. this is definitely what I would be using, is one like this. So this looks beautiful to me. We can then also do the trend line extended right. We can then redraw the channel, and we can get more moves with this one here, and then possibly over here in that bounce. So good looking trend line channel as well. I do like that. I see no resistance trend line. Now you can see lower high, lower high, lower high. It's definitely getting lower highs. So is there a resistance trend line in here somewhere? Sure, I think that's probably fine. And this is going to make it into a triangle basically. And that's totally fine with me. I think triangle plays are great. So that looks good to me right there. I always throw on volume profile, so you gotta look up volume profile yourself. Here it is for me. This is where 70% of the volume happens. You want to be above that, or you want to be just by the bottom. So if we're above it, which we are right here, that's a good sign. If we were right down here, that's also good for a deal. But if you're pushing above it, that's also a really good sign for long-term support. But it's like giving yourself a bath right now. You're right next to the microphone, you're going to be loud. And then we have our POC, our point of control. This is going to be very gravitational. That's where most of the volume happens. If we can shift this up as time goes on, that's a great sign of strength and that folks are willing to buy and sell it at a higher price. So there you go. Last thing I like to do is always put on here the ticker when I do my show, my little newsletter for my boys and my girlies and all my little friends. There that is. Put this over here. And there you go. Right, so that's all the lines mean for you watch my episodes. But this trend line is great. The support's great. I think what's most important with this one is you must draw your own supports. Again, this is just a watch list show. Do not buy all of these. And so with that being said, you must draw your own trend lines, your own supports as we go through all these. If you go off mine directly, that's totally fine with me. It's your life. But I think you drawing it and you doing this yourself makes much more sense. So strong support, trend line, and this is a great pick because the risk versus reward. If this does break, gets in the channel, sure, you can then wait to buy in. It looks good. 2 or 3% everything breaks, you're going to lose 4 or 5%. I would say that I think the optimal buying in spot will probably be closer to about 562, 560. That would be a perfect buy-in spot if it does dip down here. If it does hit the bottom of this channel, for sure you can look into it. It's going to lower your risk the lower this does go. But we do have higher lows so far, so I think maybe 555 would probably be the optimal if it does hold and keeps going. But Arlp. Great trend line, great support area. It's showing some life. It's in a good sector. If we can break this trend line area for the resistance, it'll be a fantastic pickup. Let's check the indicators. What's so cool about this channel, besides me, I make that joke every week, is that we actually do not look at the indicators before I scan. I do not look at these. I have no idea what the EMA lines are doing. I use the 10, 15, 200. I have no idea what the RSI is doing. No idea what the stochastic momentum indicator is doing. And no idea what the vortex is doing. I have no idea. I'm watching all these for the first time with you. So you can see what I see while I go through it. And it's a great exercise to see what I see in real time. Off the bat, I see this is definitely a 200 EMA play. And I want to clear everything. Don't leave if you clear everything because then you lose everything. It's below the 50 but above the 200. I think what you can do here is you can have a great play off of value or off of a crossover. What we're going to go for here is one of two things. We're below the 50 but above the 200. The closer to the 200 that we can get, the better the value is, and you can buy off of a value. If you go, I'm willing to buy in at 570, 565, and my stop loss will be 550, 545. Whatever it is, off that value of risk versus reward, that makes a lot of sense. You could also play it off of a 50 EMA crossover. As soon as we get back above the 50, it crosses back, and it holds above it, right? The first candle will hold above it, whatever it may be. You can then use the 50 EMA line area. Do not put it directly on the line. You can use the area below it, using ATR or whatever you want to use as your stop loss area. So if you can do a crossover or off a value, both makes a lot of sense. RSI, it's fair, but it does reverse near this area, so that's pretty good. It could be lower, but again, it's uptrending, so that kind of makes some sense, right? Stochastics coming down like a falling knife. I wouldn't buy this until this does either curl north, aka it's coming down, it's coming down, it's coming down. If it crosses below negative 40 on the stochastic momentum indicator, it crosses that and starts to curl north. That's the sign of a good amount of momentum coming to switch from going to a downtrend to an uptrend for a swing trade. And then the vortex, I want to see, well, before the vortex, you want to see this either get down below negative 40, hit around negative 64, or start to curl north and show some life. Vortex, the optimal spot is where the green line is low and red line is high for the full move. But seeing as the run-ups on this, when the bulls do get higher, it does run for a good amount of time, we could see a good run up. If this does cross, if we see the bears over here, if we see these bears take over, I would expect to probably break below the 200 and then come back. So moving into this week, Arlp will probably be a really good play. Just keep your eye on it, make sure it shows a little bit of life, and make your own support areas. But this whole week should be a really good play for you. Next is CLR, another really good energy company. We can see a beautiful trend line, and again, a very beautiful support area. Keyword area, I don't like lines, I like zones and areas. I think this is a great area to bounce off of. It's showing some life, and then it died back down. Seeing that we had a big push up, then we started to kind of, come back down to this huge push up. I think possibly getting in at $25 exactly would be the optimal area. Even get in at the trend line, that's even better. It does melt up. See how it takes its time around these trend lines. It takes its time. We're down here. We could easily come back down and keep pushing it and testing it. So I think if you can, you have the patience. It does pull back a little bit. The markets pull back for a day or two. You drop another 2 or 3% and get in around 24.60, 24.70, 24.80 possibly. It could be a fantastic play because of risk versus reward. Very little risk. A lot of reward can be had. If you can get down here, the first resistance is about 8 and 9% away. You're risking 1 or 2 for 8 or 9. It's a great setup. Beautiful trend line. I like the support a lot. Let's check the indicators. Off the bat, once again, we're seeing a squeeze between the 50 and the 200. The 200 needs to hold. If the 200 can hold, or if you break below it, I would wait to get back above it. If we can get, bounce off the 200, break above the 50, it's going to be great. This is a rare opportunity, though, that you can play off a 50 cross, and it's already at value. So both waiting a little bit longer or buying it now makes a lot of sense. RSI is low. Again, it could be lower, but it's low. It was recently, dipped down, came up, coming back down. So you can get around 40, 38, 39. Probably your best RSI bet where it is right now. Stochastic was dummy low, super low below the -40, and now it's curling up. You want to see that. You want to see it continue upwards. And then the bears, overbought. Bulls are oversold, showing some life. We could still run up from here. You could still run up a good amount of distance if it were to cross and hold. So into next week, into this week, CLR, fantastic pickup. I think it's a really good value, really clear play, very low risk if you give it a day or two. Moving forward, CLR needs to be on your guys' watch list. Next is CNX. This is very similar to SWN from last week. You see the similarities. These are both energy stocks, and that's not an accident. I think CNX and SNW moving into this week are fantastic. This support line, again, it's up for debate. Is it kind of up ascend so quickly? It could be higher. It could be a little bit lower. It's up to you. I'm putting it in the middle of where I think it is for an area kind of view. This trend line is beautiful, though. It's gone up, ascending beautifully. We can duplicate it and come over and see that, is it a channel? Possibly not. It did break a loop, but it's been showing some great signs. This channel overall, though, 15-20% has been made before. I think you could argue, though, it's possibly an ascending wedge or broadening wedge, and to make that full move again may be a little bit ridiculous. But what a beautiful play. Energy is at value as a sector. This is now value. It's bouncing off support. This is exactly what you want to look for. We have the energy sector oversold, and it's on its trend line, and CNX is now on its trend line. Same with SNW. These two plays, if energy goes up and these go up, you should have a great run the next week into 2 weeks. Let's check the indicators. Even more gorgeous. Oh man, Chef Boyer swings in the house. We can see this 200 EMA bounce play right here is really, really showing some life. This is beautiful. That's gorgeous. Ooh. Oh, that's beautiful. So it's bouncing off of that. It's below the 50. That will be a resistance. So again, if it's below the 50, make sure that is going to be part of your plan, and that's going to hit that and die, possibly. So 4 or 5% short term makes a lot of sense. RSI is exactly where you want it. Stochastic exactly where you want it. Bulls oversold, bears overbought. Into this week and next week, CNX. If the energy sector shows life, if the S&P shows life, if the NASDAQ shows life, CNX and SWN should be the top of your guys' watch list. If these do live and show some life, 15-20% is not impossible. It's actually probably much more doable than a lot of different tickers. So CNX looking beautiful right here. So Coop is actually not an energy ticker, I believe. It's a whole different industry, but I've been waiting weeks for this one. And one of my Discord members also pointed it out, and I was like, yeah, I'm waiting for Coop to bounce, and we're right here. I know the 200 EMA line is what's in play right here, and it's bouncing beautifully. Again, we could always take our trend line, duplicate, and see if it's a channel, and we can see, it's kind of one. I would definitely say it's much more of a broadening wedge or a closing wedge. You can see that this is not the same angle as this one. And if this does not make a full move the next few weeks or months and doesn't tap, then this pattern's done. We gotta wait for a new one. This trend line though is staying. It's a very easy to replay. I think your support line could be anywhere in this area. This trend line's pure. If it does pull back a little bit and it comes down to here, the best buy in $32 or so, but this is a gorgeous play. And a long-term hold can be ridiculously well. Very low risk. That's so easy to read. Let's check the indicators. So as I said, I knew the 200 EMA line was in play here. I've been watching it for a while, and bounce, bounce, bounce. It's right here again. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous setup. The real key is to break the 50. We can, go here and see it hits the 54%. Okay, you're risking about 3. So 1.25, 1.3 to 1 on the risk versus reward. Short term, if it doesn't break that. But long term, if it does break above it, this could be really crazy, really good. RSI is super low, exactly where you want it. Stochastic, it's a bit high, and I think you may see a small pullback or may go up a lot, hit the 50, come down, and keep going. But the vortex so low, with the bulls being so high, or the bulls being so low, bears being so high, it's fantastic. Coop, along with CNX on this list so far, are top-notch 10 out of 10, especially if it shows some life this week through the S&P and the NASDAQ and all that. But Coop, for sure, has to be in guys to watch this week, for sure. Next is ENLC, and this is another great read. I think it's a beautiful trend line. It's now consolidating, and as I always say, tickers or stocks that consolidate are leading to a bigger move. When a stock is going back and forth, it's basically like a spring, tick, 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 boom, waiting for a big move. The issue is it going to go up or down? I don't know. I can tell you. No one knows the future, right? And so the key is to have a stop loss and have smart charting and have good risk management to make sure these work in your favor when they do explode in the wrong way or the right way. So this is definitely showing a nice trend line. Again, you can draw your own. You can even come over here and be like, well, I think the best entry is going to be a little bit lower because this is also a beautiful trend line. Sure, great case. This is definitely making an ascending triangle. That is the case. This will kind of break it, but it's also maybe making a wedge of some type up here. It just comes down what kind of charting you see. I would not bet on getting like $5.40, $5. I think trying to get like $4.80, $4.90, getting 10% in and out makes a lot of sense. This trend line's looking really smart, really good, really beautiful. If it does hold and keeps going above this resistance, buying it makes sense. But let's check the indicator, see what it really wants to do. So once again, it appears here that the 200 and the 50 are sandwiching it. That's been a pretty common occurrence with energy this week so far, it seems. If we can hold this 200, beautiful. If we can get above the 50, more beautiful. So again, do you want to buy off of value? Well, it's at value. Do you want to wait for the 50 EMA crossover? Well, that's also a valid point. Many times on the 180-day chart, which I usually chart off of exclusively for this kind of show, when you get above the 200 and the 50, you get major moves. So I want to see that kind of continue for sure. RSI, it's fair. Stock is fair. Vortex is fair. Again, it's consolidating. It's been ascending. These indicators, they're saying, it could probably get a little bit lower. I'm sure that's true. And I think that may come down to maybe another, 4 or 5, 6 cents or so to push these down. And if the vortex does cross where the bulls do get lower, just wait. You could have a better deal in a few days or so, for sure. But ENLC, as we go forward this week, needs to be in your guys' watches for sure. This has a huge breakout potential moving forward. Next is RIG, and I think RIG, compared to like Coop or CNX or like SWN from last week, I'm not as high on, but I still like it a lot for a breakout potential and the risk versus reward. We can see it was obviously making a broadening wedge so far, and this does not move a good 100%, which I don't think it's going to. We have to determine that this trend line is now done, and we're waiting for a new one to form, and we see we have lower highs, so it's making either a triangle or it's making a descending triangle. We do not know yet. Maybe it's a channel down. We don't know yet. It's too new. But this trend line is still very, very much alive and looking beautiful. The best part is the support. You can put one probably, right where it's at, maybe like 323, 324. And that breaks with the trend line. You lost 2% or so. That's fine. Wait for it to show some life and buy back in lower. I'm personally waiting to see if it can come down to 313. I want a really good deal on this one, possibly even like 302 if it keeps dipping. RIG, it has good fundamentals. The best ones, WMB and XOM this week, have really good fundamentals too. But RIG, I like it. I just want to see and make sure that we can determine a higher low, right? Higher low, higher low, higher low. And this comes down to like 322 and holds and reverses. Now we're in a new ball game to me. We have plenty of room to run up, 10% pretty easily. If it breaks below here and holds, I'm gonna wait. But overall, a great ticker, great setup. I think it's okay compared to the others. I just want to see some light first. Let's check the indicators. So this is the first one of the day, which is a rarity, that it's below both the 50 and the 200. There's some days when the market just tanks and you're like, well, everything's going to be below both of them. It is what it is. But seeing as energy's been doing so well, to be below both these EMA lines is a bit of a rarity today, and that's okay. The thing to take away from this is that when you're below both these, your price target must be based on being below both these as resistances. These both paired together will be very hard to break above. You can see once you get above the 50 and the 200, you make big runs, right? When you get below the 50 and 200, the same thing happens in reverse. And this is exactly why when it comes to the market tanking in a bull market, if it does tank, we're going to do the same exact shit we do now, just reverse it and try and bounce off these lines the way it's dropping like it is. But for now, we're going to keep being bullish. This should be your resistances, so this should be near your price target. If it does dip down farther, make sure your first price target is based around this area. Take half off the table, get your profit, get in, get out. If it breaks above both of them, put more money in or just let the rest of it ride. We have RSI low, stock low. Bulls are, they're getting near oversold. Bears getting towards overbought. I think it has more room to drop. All right, I'll give rig till Wednesday, maybe Tuesday. If it keeps dipping, let the risk versus reward play itself out. I can risk 1 to every 4% I can make. Then I'll buy in. So rig looking pretty good. If you want to watch this to get above the 50 and the 200 as a crossover and as an alert, that's a great play as well. But rig, be your guys to watch this long term for sure. Next is WMB. Again, very similar to SWN and CNX. I think CNX is a little bit better value given where it's at, but WMB is still a fantastic purchase moving forward. I think long term makes a lot of sense if you check the fundamentals. This trend line is gorgeous. This support area, gorgeous. I think it could also get a tiny bit lower, maybe the 23, 25, but at that point you're really kind of splitting hairs. There has to be a conversation with risk versus reward. Are you willing to take on 1% more risk to really get into a play if you trust it? Well, the answer is yes. If you're not fully sold on it, I wouldn't go into it. But seeing as we're at 23.79 right now, that's a bit higher than 23.25. I wouldn't want to put an extra 2% on the board possibly in this kind of market. I think I would. That's fine too. So I think it just depends on your risk versus reward. Make sure you know what you're getting into. I do think we can get a little bit farther down. I think this one has the possibility of consolidating sideways for a little bit longer to then hit the channel and really take off. It's probably building up something. Let's check the indicator, see what it's doing. Long term, this makes a lot of sense, but I want to see the indicators now for a short term play. So we can see short term at least it's below the 50. Now if it does open up tomorrow above the 50, it would be smart to buy in because you can see probably an easy 3%. Maybe you get a good run up, you could probably get 4 or 5%. If it does hold above the 50 tomorrow, you can get a good day trade out of it, maybe sell on Tuesday morning if it does hold to keep going. And if it does dip, it comes back down, wait for the 200, that'll be your value play. RSI is fair. It doesn't get oversold. It doesn't get overbought. It does get below, 30 though. There's 35, sorry. So if you want to wait for that for the perfect value, that would be fine. And the stochastic is low. It's curling north. I mean, we have some strength to move up. Bulls, they're where you want them. Bears, they're where you want them. So I think WMB, it's a bit of a mixed signals. It's going to be down to preference. Do you want to buy in off this 50 crossover? It does hold above it and then go long and then possibly hold for 2-3 days, or you want to get a better value and go for a long-term play. Either way, I think it's fine. WMB long-term though, it's a great pickup. Needs to be in your guys' watch list. Next is XOM, our last one of the day. I'm not a big fan of hype stocks. Boy, who knew? But, even I have to call the blue chips when they're at a good value. XOM, Exxon is at a fantastic value. Now, I've been watching Exxon for a hot minute now. I know for a fact it's bouncing off the 200 EMA line. That's a very popular play very often, and it's right there. This trend line is very true. It's held very well for a long period of time. This support area, I think I'm being a bit liberal. I think you could easily put it at 54, 56 or whatever right here. That's probably more accurate. But again, do you want to miss a gigantic company's move because you want to save 1.9%? I think the answer is no for me personally. If this does take off, you can see the run-ups that it has. It has crazy runs when it gets going, right? 20%, 16%, even over here, 10. So if you do catch one of these big moves, which happens near this trend line, you could be very happy you took this investment And it's a dividend stock, right? 87 cents. You know, it's not a lot, but it is a good growth stock to mix with that. It's always a nice little extra gimme for these kinds of plays. Let's check the indicators. So once again, the 200 EMA lines, what's bouncing off of a kind of that. Once again, it's getting sandwiched. So again, you have options. All of our plays have convergence, where the EMA lines, the supports, the trend lines come together. That's convergence. You can now buy off of value, which I think it's right next to, or off the crossover. It does have fake outs, so I wouldn't be overly excited to get into above the 50. But if it does get above it and breaks this resistance at 57.66, it's a whole different conversation if it does do that. RSI is low, stocks low, bulls where you want them, bears where you want them. XOM, again, I'm not a hype guy. I'm not the kind of guy to be like, hey, clickbait, clickbait, clickbait. Actually, I do the opposite on purpose, and folks sometimes are like, don't get the sarcasm or the satire behind it, and that's okay. But XOM moving forward, if you look at this chart again, just looking at these beautiful trend line to support, this 200 EMA line, it could be a fantastic play. So there you guys have it. 8 great takers for the week. Again, I'll be back on Monday, and then through Monday, and I'll be here forever, obviously. But these plays are going to be good this whole week, I believe. I think it's important to check out these sectors, which we did on Saturday. Check that out again if you want to see what I'm focusing. This week, energy, and I think there's some great sector rotation going on to the other ones I talked about, financials, real estate, utilities, healthcare. But I already talked about so many of those last 2 weeks. I think it's good to get some diversity. If you enjoy this kind of content, if this is giving any kind of value at all, again, I do appreciate the like, subscribe, bell notification. It does make a difference to me. I'm so close to 5,000 within about 4 months. I think it's November to December, January, February. Yeah, it's right now it's about month 5. So average about, if I can get there before April 20th, that's 1,000 a month. That'd be pretty cool. Otherwise, check out the Discord if you like. If that's not the kind of thing you want, I'll be okay. No, I'll be all right. No problem at all. Have a good rest of your Sunday. Be blessed. Be healthy. Do all the great things you want to do. We'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Thanks.